Hi everyone. So the past few days ago, don't remember when, but it was My Little Pony: A New Generation's third anniversary, and I thought, since I know Ethan, I thought, hey, we watched Generation 4. We got up until I think episode 3, and I thought, it'd be kind of fun to let Ethan watch My Little Pony: A New Generation, given it's the third anniversary. And I thought, hey, it's been a good hot minute since I've watched A New Generation, going on my second time watching it this year with someone else. And it's a little funny considering the first ever video I did about A New Generation was another collab. So, hey, why not do a collab, but this time with my boyfriend?
I'm just gonna say that when I saw My Little Pony New Generation, I kind of was in for a surprise. And before even Generation 4, I didn't even entirely know what the show about My Little Pony was gonna even be, at least for the Generation 4 and Generation 5. It's always been a case where I've always been into different shows, and I mean lately I've been getting into other shows with Spector as well, like Sonic Boom and Power Rangers most recently yesterday. So getting into My Little Pony was a bit of an interesting story. As not even like 10 minutes ago, we literally just finished up the movie, and I'm not even fully sure what the video idea this is supposed to be, but I know we're gonna be talking about the My Little Pony G5 movie, so I guess I'll let Spector do the rest. And I'll try to follow along the best way I could.
Okay, so I thought, why don't we do the plot of the movie? So, what did you think about the story?
There's only so far that I can go into the plot before going into other territory, which I shall not say, but I will say that when it comes down to a lot of what the film is about, it very much is, I'm not going to say it's typical, but it's very much a side of it trying to be like making sure that everybody is on your side towards the end sort of thing, trying to convince everybody that this is a certain thing, and then not normally pointing towards the bad guy with this film, because that's not how it works. But, like, it's a source where it's, like, it feels like that. It very much goes alongside with trying to be like, hey, the bad guys aren't really the ones that are trying to be, like, deceptive. They're just trying to bring everybody together, which is kind of funny especially with this economy and how this life is right now.
I'm glad you brought that up about a villain. The biggest thing that I like about A New Generation is that outside of two characters, which we'll touch on a little later, there's not really a villain. Each of the tribes are very misguided in what they view of the other pony kinds, and they just kind of want to keep the status quo of segregation and not really questioning, hey, could there be an actual better and healthy alternative, especially considering that the magic was gone.
Like, I kind of had this thought the entire time, like, when I was watching the film at first, and then when I was getting into the first, like, 30, 40 minutes, I was like, wait, what kind of film actually is this? I was like, I couldn't help but be, like, questioning that. It's like, this is so relatable.
Yeah, I will say this. Considering we recently watched My Little Pony Generation 4, the 2-part premiere, what I do like is the parallel. In Friendship is Magic's 2-parter, it was the matter of the main 6 finding the elements of harmony, and with this movie, it was them finding the crystals. But in the end, it turned out the crystals were, in terms of G4, the elements of harmony were all of the main 6 representing positive traits in a friendship. With the G5 movie, it wasn't the matter of, congratulations, you're a unicorn, you're a Pegasi, you're an Earth Pony, congratulations, you get the crystals, you get the magic back. There was a lot more steps for that to happen. Everyone had to pretty much realize that, with how the main 5 of the characters of the movie came together and became friends, and how all the characters came together to stop Sprout from destroying the Bright House even more, or hurting Sunny and her friends, or anyone around them, including the critters, they all realize that friendship and love is a very powerful thing, and choosing friendship is a really good thing to have. So them realizing that is how they got the crystals and the magic back, instead of just being handed it to them just because they represented a certain pony kind, or in the sense of the G4 reference I'm doing. Oh, Pinkie Pie, you're the element of laughter. Here you go. Here's your element of harmony.
I swear that Pinkie must be some sort of alternate ego for, like, Autumn and Lego and Friends. Like, that's a theory which people should seriously try to bring up. Like, the fact that it's the same voice actor. Why aren't they the
same? I love how we're bringing up Lego Friends. Well, maybe we'll do a Lego Friends video at some point.
But going back all the way to G5, like, it was like the entire thing in itself, I actually found it a really good story, even though it's too hard to not relate to it. It's in the same sense, I feel like that if it's a case where you need to show this, like, I swear this is going to become lost media at some point. Like, hopefully it won't.
Whoa, hey now, considering the current state of G5, and I'll definitely talk about that at the end of the video. Let's not go there.
I guess the smaller stuff that comes down into the actual film of G5 itself, the small details. The animation I thought was actually not that bad. It was pretty good for, like, honestly, when it comes down to the old style and then like G4 against G5, it definitely is a next generation, which obviously new generation, which is irony, but I like the animation in G4. It actually gives a very comfy vibe. G5 does feel like an upgraded thing like that.
Mind you, Ethan has only watched the movie, so I know in the comments people are going to bring up Make Your Mark. Ethan will definitely watch that, but for right now we're talking about the G5 movie and its animation. But I agree. I think Boulder Media did an amazing job. The Brony and Pony fans, I'm just using Brony broad strokes here, but the Pony fans that they brought on to work on the movie did an amazing job. I really love the character designs in this movie, and just how, really, the character designs are great, and it's translated to the other piece of G5 media, but these are some really good character designs.
And even then, the side characters, they there was all this kind of, it actually gave it a form of, like,
the universe felt built in and diverse.
I very much would say that it definitely is, like, there's so many different vibes I got from the film, which relates to real life events.
Well, I think it's, I will say this, because we'll get to Sprout and Phyllis a little bit later, but I do think it is something to definitely bring up ever so slightly. We'll get into characters in a few minutes, but I do think that this movie definitely came out at the right place and the right time. This movie is, like I said, third year anniversary. In my opinion, I think that where we were at in the world, it was a little different, but I do think that the message and themes were very important, and I think that, I think it's a good message for children, but we'll get into Phyllis and Sprout a little bit later, and I've said this in my other G5 video, but I do think it's also a good movie for parents as well. I think all around, this is a good family movie for the whole family. Even my grandparents, who were the last people I watched it with, they enjoyed the movie.
It's very much a good film if you're wanting to spread some positivity in your kids. The whole idea of this film is mainly to spread positivity in the diverse world of ponies. That's extremely important, because that means it kind of grows you up to become a much better person in life, instead of, I don't know, being like Spout, which like Spout.
I get. Yeah, no, I definitely get. Well, we'll get to Sprout later, but I definitely get what you mean. And I will say this, being a fan of Generation 4, My Little Pony definitely changed me. It opened up a lot of good things in my life. Also at the same time, the show was there for me at my lowest point in two different aspects of my life, from whether or not that was middle school up until I was 18. The show, in terms of G4, has brought me not only comfort, but a lot of good, healthy life lessons about friendship and interpersonal relationships and things like that. So I can't thank G4 enough for that. The G5 movie is very, very upfront. It doesn't sugarcoat anything. It very much says, hey, there is a positive alternative. And I definitely like how G5, this movie definitely handled its lesson of unity and coming together. We'll get into the more nuances when we get to the character bits, but I agree with Ethan on this. I think that this movie did a good job of trying to, spread some positivity and give hope, like what Sunny represents.
Speaking of Sunny, the whole idea of her character being like wanting to show the spread, that's a big like part of like the reason probably why she was one of my favorite characters in the film. Like, it was just her message, and then also learning it from her dad. Meanwhile, we got the other family that's just like, oh yeah, there's just certain ways that they used to be. Don't listen to them, honey. They're just totally insane. No, they had their message, and they were able to spread it around towards the end of the film, which is even the other characters who ended up coming up later on. The main characters, I felt this kind of bond where it was like all the characters just kind of they just worked well. I mean, besides maybe the sheriff, but that kind of spread in a little bit towards the later parts. But
all right, Ethan is a Sunny Star Scout #1 supporter. All right, I love to see it. So I love Sunny Star Scout. If you visit my channel, I did a whole video on why I love Sunny Star Scout as a character. And mind you, we're just focusing on the film, so we're not going to get into the other parts of G5. But I will say this, and this is where I'm going to get very personal, which is something I didn't do in my other videos, and I think now's a good time to be a little personal. It's not a Spector moment without that. But for me, I live in a very religious household, and I had another parent who was also religious as well, but she wasn't religious before she met another family member. And pretty much, this person definitely taught me just to love and to understand differences. And, this person taught me just a lot of love. The other family member, who was very religious, pretty much taught me to essentially hate. There was love, but it was love under, you gross, you're different, that's bad, you're awful. And I relate to Sunny because Sunny's dad represents a family member that I had. But also at the same time, Phyllis and Maritime Bay being incredibly hateful reminded me of my other parent. So to me personally, I feel like Sunny has two parents. An actual biological parent that taught her all of the amazing things and told her to never give up hope and to be the change that you want to see in the world. Then you have Maritime Bay and also Phyllis pretty much tearing her down and pretty much trying to lean her into the status quo of just being a hateful person and just kind of embrace the status quo of just being miserable to other people. And that's one aspect of Sunny's character that I could relate to in a far different means. I don't think that this was intended with the text, but I do think that's an interesting view to look at for me personally. And it's one of the reasons why I think that the G5 movie does a great job with its messaging and also Sunny Star Scout as a character.
I feel like that maybe I could also relate to the film as well. Like, I mean, as much as that I like Sunny, I think the character who I could relate to the most is Hooch. Like, Sheriff Hooch, and the reason for that, and this is kind of a personal moment too.
Wait, hang on. His name is Hitch. I think that's funny that you called him Hooch, because I'm like, you referenced another police thing, Turner and Hooch, which I find very, very funny. I know that was very unintentional, but that was actually that was clever. I'm not gonna lie, that was a clever accident.
I relate more to Hitch. mainly because as you know, recently, me and Spector became boyfriends recently, and Spector had his personal moment, so I'll have my personal moment. He's kind of that person who's wanted to be open-minded, but in the same sense, it's kind of in this stuck, closed door of a certain view. But then finally, throughout the film, he goes from this closed-up mind of what it was originally to becoming more open to realizing that this is not how things used to be. The certain things should be a certain way, or be basically more free than how basically the film was intended originally. How, oh, basically all three kingdoms, the Pegasus, the Earth ponies, and the unicorns are all separated. They aren't considered the norm in the other regions. It's like slowly realizing that it's like, oh, this could be this way, and it's honestly better that way. I mean, I've been going through an entire healing process thanks to Spector and everything like that. And I'm not going to exactly say what the topic was. Let's just say I was in a very bad spot before I met Spector.
Since we're talking about Hitch, so I'm going to say a personal hot take. I don't care for Hitch at the beginning of the movie, and I'm well aware that's intentional. I will say this, I think that it was used effectively. One thing that I do like is what Ethan brought up. Hitch very much starts off the movie very narrow-minded, keeping the status quo, keeping the peace, but in keeping that peace, it's ignoring other ponies. And one scene that I do like is how Hitch says he has to look out for every pony, and Sunny points out, when you say every pony, you do mean Earth ponies, Pegasi, and unicorns. And the scene that I like the most is the campfire scene. The only way Hitch was able to change his mind was pretty much not only seeing the girls bond together and slowly warm up to each other, but also Izzy showing that she had the drawing that Sunny made to say that, hey, unicorns and Pegasi are welcome to Maritime Bay. They have friends that will happily welcome them to the city. And Hitch finally realized, oh, that actually meant something. Izzy, from a very young age, saw that and aspired to someday go to Maritime Bay, and she finally did. And that hitting Hitch in an emotional area, it worked. It was effective. And after that, you see Hitch become a lot more playful. To certain extents, embraces more feminine side, which is more so explored much later on, but it was shown in Izzy's song, and I enjoy that. I very much like that. Although, going back to the thing I don't like about Hitch at the beginning of the movie, I don't really care for the fact that My Little Pony has a police state. That, listen, it existed in G4. I'm not going to act like it didn't, but I don't know. In G5, it's a little weird. Media after this course corrects it and makes Hitch more of a cowboy ranger park figure. And that's what other children's media does. And I think that's a little bit better than Police State Equestria. Just, I don't know, man. It feels a little weird. Even not Sunny, but Izzy makes a joke about Hitch having a badge. So even G5 during its early days kind of were like, yeah, ooh, maybe we shouldn't do Police State Equestria.
Oh boy.
I know me saying that the comments are going to be very, very interesting, so I'm very well aware of that one.
Oh boy, we're just subtly bringing up the one topic that we're just subtly bringing it up.
We're gonna move on to a different character. I think since I brought up Izzy, I think that's a good character to segue into.
Yeah. I don't know what to say about Izzy. Isn't Izzy? Oh yeah, she is definitely pinky coated. That literally, I was like, oh, she's so pinky coated.
Okay, so I'm gonna disagree with you. And I know you're new to G4, so I completely get it. Izzy's not a party character. She's just an energetic character. She shares that same energetic energy that Pinky has, but very much toned down. If anything else, Izzy is a more energetic but chill character. In fact, I think Kimiko Glenn, her voice actor for the movie, I think that she definitely shows off the energetic but chill nature of Izzy. She balances out the two really well in terms of what this movie has provided for her character. And the other thing that I do like is that she is a creative type. I love seeing her arts and crafts in her little treehouse. I thought it was very cute, and I like that. I like that she was the happy-go-lucky, optimistic, upbeat character of the film that added a lot of the good jokes in the movie. And I liked that Bridalwood was very much doom and gloom and all sad because magic wasn't around, and it did give Bridalwood a handicap essentially because unicorns are supposed to use their magic and all that jazz, and they were just very sad about that. But Izzy looked at a situation that wasn't so bright and cheery and decided, to do it in her own way. And for her in this movie, it was, her doing arts and crafts and at some point going to Maritime Bay. And yeah, I just like that part of Izzy. So we're going to transition into Zephyr Heights, and one thing that Ethan liked was the parodies found in Zephyr Heights. What were your favorites?
Spider-Man wasn't made by Pony, it was made by XB... XPX? That sounds like an audio brand. What's...
I don't know what the Spotify parody was, but I still like that the logo is like 3 feathers.
There was another parody I saw, but I completely forgot what it was. By the time I even saw it, I was meeting the new characters.
Okay, so speaking of the new characters, I think we're gonna go with Zipp, since that's a little bit of an easier character to talk about for you.
Zipp's it White Pony, right?
Yes, the White Pony, yep.
I swear that she looks very fine. She does kind of remind me of somebody who I met in high school, but very much, I like the hair. And I would say...
You like the toothpaste hair?
This isn't Colgate.
Okay, visually you gotta add Colgate the pony in there.
It's very much a hard thing. Like, she's very confident, and very much on the side where she kind of knows exactly what the plan's going to be like, but in the same sense, it's like, she definitely would stick up for anybody, even if it was kind of like, oh, this person did something bad, I would definitely stick up for them.
Oh, that's going to be interesting when we get into a certain G5 episode. But I will say, in terms of the groundwork that we have, I agree with Ethan. I like her confidence. I do like her character design. That is a good character design. It's you could definitely tell she was very heavily inspired by Rainbow Dash, but if you made her a little bit more of a royal type of character, that leads into more rebellion. But her rebellion is more in the sense of, I hate the current way things are. They shouldn't be. We should be able to fly, and we shouldn't be able to just willy-nilly lie to our people. Also, I do like how very kind and sweet she is. That's an element of this movie that I definitely picked on this viewing. Not like I didn't pick on it in viewings before, but I do like that this movie showed Zipp's softer side, caring about Sunny, caring about her book, caring about Izzy as well. Little things like that. Also, her caring about Pip's feelings wasn't touched upon too long, but I feel like it was done good enough. She was also, joking with Hitch, but it was very much in a friendly, joking manner. In terms of what we have, I like that Zipp can be a confident character, a little bit of a sarcastic character, but she can also show a softer and caring side, and just overall, I like Zipp in the movie.
I will say the one thing which is kind of insane And actually, I was just thinking about this, is that how much strength does those strings actually have? Is it like that one string that Lance Stewart put in front of that one guy, and it's just like, oh, where did it go? Oh, I swear the ponies must be convinced that that's the exact same string. Lance Stewart was the one that made the string in the first place. It's just like, it's invincible. You don't have to worry about it. Don't worry. Flying is real. Don't worry about Pips. Please don't look at her. She's not in a good spot.
Okay, since we just made a reference to that, what did you think of Pipp?
The one thing which I know everybody's gonna hate for me to say is Charlie D'Amelio. She's very much in the beginning of the film, very much trying to be a social media influencer, and well, probably she is probably an influencer in this universe.
Yeah, she already is.
But once the film kind of opened up, she was definitely that kind of, like, definitely had a reputation on the line a little bit, but she was definitely, like, willing to help. That was, like, I don't know, like, I
think you said it pretty good in the best way that you possibly could. Okay, if you know me, outside of me loving Misty, a character that shows up much later, and being Sunny Starscout's biggest defender, I love Pipp. Like, we can't ignore what Hasbro was doing. They very much took from two things that they previously worked on and lost the license to. A pink pop princess sounds awfully familiar to Poppy. Sophia Carson voicing Pipp Petals? Sounds like Evie from Descendants. So the hodgepodge of these two was very interesting, and we ended up getting a very interesting character. One thing that I do like about her in the beginning of the film, and especially glowing up, given current events with a certain pop star, to use her language, Pipp was making purposeful pop. She didn't actually realize that what she was saying wasn't really true. It's not that she didn't want to see her people to fly and have confidence in themselves, but she was lying because she was faking that she was flying, and the royals can fly. So what she was doing on paper was good, and we got a bop that sounds like a version of Can't Stop the Feeling, but she didn't really care. But she did care at the same time. It's very interesting. I kind of like that pop music nuance that they added to Pipp. I think that's really cool. One downside is Pipp was the character to definitely get the short end of the stick in this movie, which in a weird way sucks, but I kind of get why. Pipp is just an icon. She has a really good design. Like, her toys from the beginning of this generation were really good. Hasbro knew she was going to be one of the main three it girls of the brand. And when we get to the scene where she's warming up to, like, Izzy, and she finds out her illuminescence is aquamarine, and then she helps Sunny during the dance thing, and then she helps Izzy and Sunny with the lighthouse thing. You know, she generally cared and warmed up, and she liked the people that she was hanging around, slowly but surely. But with Pipp, she wasn't given that much, but what she had was fun.
But you know what? I would say that at least I grew a lot better to Pipp than the massive elephant in the room.
Okay. Well, actually, we have two elephants in the room, actually. So let's start with the one.
I swear, I feel like I should say, oh, these are the two devils of the story.
Oh, people are not going to like you in the comments for that one.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, let's cut that out. I honestly didn't even like that comment myself. This is like that moment where it's like Jeremy Clarkson is asking which car is James May gonna arrive in. It's like, wait, what is this character gonna be like? And it's like, as soon as I saw the first scene with Generation 4 characters and you see one of the characters turn red, I was like, yeah, no.
So with that being said, how do you feel about Sprout?
Very much an inspiration from a food that not a lot of people like, including a writer from Paw Patrol. He never liked them. It's very...
I can eat Brussels sprouts. I vibe with them. You have to cook it. Someone has to cook it really good, though. That's the one thing. If you make Brussels sprouts, someone could easily fuck it up pretty easily.
I would say there was this side of me which liked him at first. Like, the first scene kind of was like, oh yeah, it set the mood for how Sprout was gonna be. He very much was on the side where it was like, okay, so he's the sidekick essentially for Hitch. He's very much the sidekick of Hitch. And when Hitch went out of town, next minute you see him trying to be like, okay, how do I formulate a plan to become this to be my own town? Basically, how do I don't know.
And mind you, it was because of his mom.
Okay, how do I formulate this?
Yeah, I feel like even with you trying to find your words, it's very complicated. I think these two characters are the most complicated thing about My Little Pony Generation 5, and it's definitely where you definitely get into those more nuanced topics. I think this is where the hardest discussion comes in.
Going from the very beginning of the movie and then going up to basically the robot scene, I couldn't help but be slightly disturbed in a sense. And I'm gonna kind of bring up a huge elephant in the room, a massive elephant that everybody probably somewhat knows about. And if any of you don't, please be prepared. Or if you are disturbed, please do click onto probably a time frame that we'll have set down. Okay, I don't know if I'm gonna include this bit, but
okay, you know what? We'll just say it. I'll say it. It's very much giving anything from 2016 and onward.
That wasn't even what I was thinking at all. No, I'll just say it right now. Yeah, it reminds me of World War II Germany.
Okay, so this is where a lot of people take issue with My Little Pony: A New Generation, and why a lot of people were disturbed by the movie. And this is where I agree with the people who didn't vibe with how Sprout was handled in the movie. Like I said, there's definitely some 2016 and onward implications with both Sprout and his mom, but then you throw in Dictator Sprout, you throw in the ponies being in a single file line and marching. It's messy. I think that they should have handled this a little bit better without having that level of imagery. Outside of the bigoted parent thing, we'll get into that a little bit later. I feel like that angle works, but they definitely push Sprout a bit overboard. And sadly, I can say this as a G5 fan and knowing what happened after, this is definitely why Sprout had very limited appearances, because people just were not vibing with that aspect of the movie, and Hitch and Phiylis got very limited appearances after this. It sucks. It is definitely a price this movie paid for definitely not being coy about the subject matter.
And especially with what's going on this year, of course I'll include this in a chapter, so if any of you are still watching this and you're like, yeah, I mean, of course we'll have the appropriate chapters in the video. It very much reminds me of what's going on exactly in the world of politics. And I know I didn't want to bring it up. It was only because this was kind of where it was like, oh, this side of the film, it's dark. It got really dark really quickly, because I was like, I couldn't help but have this sour taste in my mouth when I was watching that scene, and the whole lighthouse scene. I was like, what's happening? And it really gave that aspect. It's like towards the end it got very good, but this very much was the
it's one of those things where mob, a scene that I was talking about earlier. It's one of those things where you're like, this is a very xenophobic. Oh no. And then you throw in the mech Sprout thing, and it's like, oh, this man's willing to hate crime. Oh no. And it's, yeah, listen, I'm glad the movie doesn't shy away from it, but at the same time, it's My Little Pony. I think it went a little bit too far, and this is where, I mean, mind you, Generation 4 did it, and it didn't handle it with much grace. And I feel like with this movie, you know what they're doing, but at the same time, it doesn't damper the vibe, but at the same time, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, like, this is My Little Pony. Maybe we should have done this a little bit differently.
I mean, I'm glad the main topic of the film, or actually the good. I don't like. I would have bet that they probably had a different ending in mind as well, which probably would have gotten really dark. But I'm glad that the main thing which they were going for was the whole diversity, which is funny how the whole channel as well that we run as well is based on diversity too, with our relationship and everything like that. But I'm happy that it got the ending when it did, and I know there's G5, the rest of the series I have to go through, which, I mean, I'm very excited to go into the series. When it comes down to, like, compared to what we got in the middle, like, I think expectation-wise, it was definitely oh, this is going to be a fun kidsy movie, and then reality, it turned into literally this whole thing, which is like, oh, we're going to hate crime against any other pony. But I'm glad it ended the way it did, with all the crystals coming back together and just basically separating the separation of the diversity and bringing it all together.
Well, okay, it brought the magic back. It helped do that in terms of it didn't really fix the diversity problem. It brought the magic back for the ponies that, you know, are supposed to have flight and magic. Relationship wise, they had to build those relationships. The main six were representing building that, and then the other characters witnessing them coming together to stop Sprout with the lighthouse, and also them kind of coming together and noticing Sunny and her crew and how they became friends through the journey and things like that. So they had to repair that sort of thing emotionally, but you know, they gave the handicap that unicorns and Pegasi had. They no longer have that anymore.
I'm glad the magic came back, and certainly I bet that throughout the entire series, the relationships between all of them will be built. I'm not even sure how to transition to, like, is it a perfect time to transition towards...
Okay, wait, hang on. Okay, so I want to go back to Sprout really quickly. So this is something that I brought up in my original review with the person I collabed with before, and also in other G5 videos that are on my channel. But one thing that I will say is I like that this is a kids movie. I think that they got the friendship and all that jazz good, but I think the Sprout element was aimed at the adults. And the thing that I like is that Phyllis's whole company and her viewpoint was very bigoted. She passed those views on to Sprout. And because she raised Sprout that way, Sprout went to the mega extremes, and Phyllis didn't know how to handle that. At the end of the movie, she didn't want to address that she was the problem and why Sprout ended up the way that he did towards the end of the film. So, in a sense, Sprout just went down the wrong path because of his mom. And I will say this. Sprout, mind you, he did awful things, and through animation and body language, he does regret it. But at the same time, Phyllis is definitely to blame because she was the one that installed that into her child. And I do think that that was an interesting angle to kind of show parents, you know, hey, you know, if you fuck around, you're gonna find out.
And I mean, that's a big thing to actually bring up, because it's like fuck around and find out, and it's like, oh, oh. I'm glad they didn't decide to fuck around and find out with My Little Pony G5, because certainly I found it really good. I mean, the characters were great besides Sprouts, obviously. It very much gave a vibe of finding it, well, obviously finding the magic, and then making it come back to the light, or coming back to life. I do not know how to end this, and again, I'm new to My Little Pony G5 even then. Even My Little Pony in itself, I'm new to. And it's mostly a thing where I would like to say, I'm ready to enjoy the series. I'm ready to go into it with Spector and be able to take it in the same way of like how I took My Little Pony, because I didn't even know how that was even going to go, like My Little Pony G4. But it's very much a thing where I enjoyed the film. The characters were great, besides, of course, Sprout. I'm pretty sure they sprouting some actual thoughts now. Hey, it's not so bad. Let's actually give it a chance.
Yeah, honestly, overall, like I was saying in my bit about talking about Phyllis, because I do think that's an important thing, I don't view Sprout as a bad character. I think the writers just went a little too far, but in some instances I'm kind of glad that they did, but it definitely led to not so great things along when the movie released. I think that people, even Ethan, had some interesting views. But overall, this was a good start to Generation 5. I wanted to end this video on a very positive note. I am well aware that Hasbro has cut My Little Pony Generation 5 very short. Generation 5 will end on October 17th, I think. And sadly, we're not getting any more Tell Your Tale episodes as the series got canceled. But if there's one thing that this movie taught me, and also Sunny, is that there's always hope. And at the same time, Generation 5 has done a lot of good for many fans, including myself. At some point, I definitely want to make a Sunny video that has a little bit more to it, but I also want to make a Misty Bright Dawn character. As you can tell, Misty is kind of my avatar that I use, and I really love this character, and she means a lot to me, and she's definitely helped me heal during a lot of the things that I'm processing with my own trauma and learning a lot about myself. Also, I have a channel that I talk about G5 music because it's pop music, and I love pop music, and I love what G5 did with pop. And overall, I had fun with this generation, and I think, Hoof the Heart is a powerful slogan that G5 had. I like that it means to keep your friends and family close. And honestly, with the friendships I've made and the relationship I made with Ethan, Hoof to Heart means something to me. And that's amazing. Overall, it's sad that Generation 5 is ending after 3 years. There's a lot of good that G5 gave to us, fans. And if you're a fan of G5, cherish the time that you had, and the memories, and also the positive people you met along the way. I'm sure many people made a lot of good friendships along the way. I know I certainly have, and I'm never going to forget that. And I'm never going to forget a lot of the amazing content creators who made Generation 5 videos, from defense videos to even little reactions to Tell Your Tale or Make Your Mark. Generation 5 was a fun ride. It sucks Hasbro was being a corporation at the end of the day and cut it short, but honestly, I'm happy that I got to have Generation 5 in my life. And with that note, I hope you guys enjoyed the video.
On that bombshell, this has been Pause and Spector. See you next time, ponies.